Hey, welcome back. Let's answer some questions. By the way, if you have questions for me, leave them in the comment section below and I will answer them in a future video. By the way, I have time codes down below in the description. So if you want to jump to a specific question, just jump down to the description, find the time code, click on it, you'll get your answer.
Hey Justin, quick question slash suggestion. So I buy a lot of lots on estate sales near me, and instead of having individual prices, they kind of price my bin, box, or bag, whatever I'm carrying at the time. What I do now is I distribute, like if it's a $200 box, I divide X amount of items by 200, and that's the cost of goods. But sometimes I'll have items with low returns but high cost of goods because of this. Should I give the more valuable items a higher cost of goods and the lower valuable items a lower cost of goods? And the suggestion part of my video is I use Flipwise, love it, it's great. But because I do buy a lot of lots, would it be possible to incorporate lots into Flipwise so like this I could keep track of how much I'm making per lot instead of how much I'm making in total? That's what I used to do on my computer on like spreadsheets, but Flipwise made it a lot easier. But the lot feature would be cool if you could add it to it. Thank you. Keep up the good work, man, with your videos.
Yeah, appreciate it, Alex. Thanks for that. Yeah, to answer your question, when I buy things in lots, and I often do buy, big lots of just many items for one flat price. I do one of two things. I either break the cost down evenly across all of them, and that's if they all have roughly the same value. It's just easier to give it a single cost of goods or an even cost of goods across all units than making sure that that adds up to the total amount paid. But sometimes, actually very often, you'll buy a lot of things where there's a few items in that lot that are way more valuable than others. And in those situations, I typically do weight the cost of goods based on the rough value of that item. Typically what I do is about 10%. And so if an item's worth $100, I'll give it a $10 cost of goods. And it's, from a tax perspective, it really doesn't matter. From a tax perspective, it's really only the total amount that you spend and the total amount of money you make. And so as long as that stuff all adds up together, however you slice and dice it across each item doesn't really matter. But I like to look at the performance of my store on an individual item basis. And so if I give everything a $10 cost of goods and sell something for $8, that thing is a loss, when really it's not necessarily a loss. I should be giving it a lower cost of goods because it's less valuable, for example. So one example here, again, if I buy a lot of 10 things for $100, splitting them evenly would be fine, $10 across each. But let's say there's one item worth $500. I would give that a $50 cost of goods and then split the $50 amongst the rest of the items in that lot. And to answer your question about Flipwise, we do have a way to handle this today. It's not perfect and we're going to be improving it, but right now what you can do is when you buy a lot is give everything in that lot a unique purchase location. And if you give it a unique purchase location, that allows you to see the total amount spent on that purchase location. And it also will track the performance of that unique purchase location over time. So I'll just use my store as an example here. If I go into manage and purchase locations, you're going to see all my purchase locations, and you'll see one right here. I have some that are just generic, like Church Sales and Dick's Outlet and Encore Thrift, different stores, but I also have purchase locations specifically for bulk purchases. And so this Skims Nike is a bulk purchase right here. You can see here that I have 101 items in there, and I spent a total of $915 for this big lot of stuff. So far, I've grossed $555. I have netted negative $523, and I've received $384 back from that. So this one has not paid off yet. I'm still selling stuff from it. But by giving each bulk lot a unique purchase location in Flipwise, it allows you to group those things together and see their performance over time. Some of the changes that we're going to make going forward is allowing you to configure these purchase locations as like a bulk lot specifically, which the big difference there will be it will allow you to define a purchase price in total, and then any items you add to that purchase location will get an even cost of goods or a weighted cost of goods if you want that, instead of the reverse, because right now it's just totaling up your total cost of goods for every item in this group. So when we do the work in the future to better support bulk lots, it'll allow you to instead define a total cost like $915, and then it will split that cost across the items that are associated with that group. So it kind of just reverses it a little bit. But yeah, that's how I would do it today in Flipwise. It works pretty well. I can see very easily this one is not paid off yet. And over time, I'll be able to see once, I have a positive net profit margin and I'm actually making money on this purchase. So it's pretty cool. Nomad asks, I use eBay to sell coins online and all money goes towards my dad's dream Rolex watch for his retirement. Do you have any advice on maximizing sales for coins? Hey Nomad, I don't have a whole lot of experience selling coins, but that's super cool that you're doing this to buy your dad's dream Rolex. So please, people in the comments, if you have some experience with coins, give old Nomad here some advice. Let's get his dad the watch that he wants and deserves. So that's really cool if you're doing that. That's awesome.
Hey, Justin, Jason again. So I have been reselling since about February or so, and I am headed into my first Q4. And I've heard rumors that Q4 is a very, very exciting time to be a reseller. So 2 questions. Number 1, what should I expect for Q4? And what can I be doing now in late August and September to have a successful Q4? Thanks very much. Bye.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jason. Thanks for sending another question along. By the way, if you want to send along a video question like this, you can do so. There's a link in the description below. Love to have you on the channel. But to answer your question, Jason, yeah, Q4 is right around the corner. And typically Q4 is a time of higher sales on eBay and just in e-commerce in general. That's because of the holiday season. More people are buying stuff. They're buying gifts. Have more money on hand. More people are just buying in Q4. And so generally you can expect that sales are going to increase in Q4. So it is a pretty exciting time. eBay just definitely is a more busy place. It really, though, depends on what you sell. And so personally, I'm an everything seller. I'll sell anything that is valuable, that can make money. But if you sell in a very particular niche, for example, it could be that Q4 is not a popular time. And so I just say that up front for everyone listening to this answer, consider your own store. You may just be selling things that are different and my advice doesn't apply to. So take it with a grain of salt. But as an everything seller, I can look over my data in the past and typically my sales in Q4 are 20 to 30% higher than other quarters throughout the year. And so to prepare, you can just expect to have to do more, right? You're going to have to do more shipping, make sure you have enough supplies on hand. And so it's a good time to reorder boxes if you need to, reorder tape, make sure that your postal scale's in good working order. Make sure if you're thinking about getting a label printer, this is probably a good time to get a label printer just because you're going to be selling more and using it more. So that would be a good idea. And also just, this is the time to get all of your inventory live, right? You always want to be getting your inventory listed and live on eBay, but especially as we get closer to and into Q4, just because people are buying more stuff and you can't sell things if they're not listed on eBay. Trying to list as consistently as I possibly can and just know I want to take advantage of the fact that there's more people on eBay. There's more buyers on eBay, so I want to get as much stuff live and I want to be prepared for more sales because my sales are going to increase by about 20 to 30% like they have historically. So that's what you can expect. Nothing crazy, just do more of the same stuff. Rose asks, Hi Justin, question. I frequently receive lowball offers for my items. While I want to sell my inventory and avoid sitting on it, I also don't want to accept offers that are too low and end up losing money. Do you have any guidelines for evaluating offers such as rejecting those that are more than 20% off listing price? Or should I be more open to accepting all offers? Thanks. Hey Rose, that's a good question. I typically don't have best offers turned on, though I have been experimenting more with that lately, and I'll have a different video on that in the future. But it's really just up to you. You need to understand sort of what you have into the item that you're getting a best offer on and whether that's worth it to sell. And so all sorts of variables go into decision making when whether or not you want to accept an offer. So if, for example, I'm willing to accept a much lower offer if the item's been listed for a longer amount of time, if the sell-through rate is lower, for example. But if I just list something and I get an offer, for 20% off and I think it's going to sell at full price, well, I probably wouldn't have best offers turned on in the first place, but you get what I mean. You just want to make sure that you're not accepting a lower offer if you think that you can get more. And so for me, there's no hard percentage. I don't think in my head, it has to be at least less than 20% off. It just, sometimes I'll take more. It just really depends on the item, depends on the amount of money, depends on what else I've sold that day. If I feel like I really want to make a sale, I might be willing to take a lower offer. So it really just depends. No hard and fast rule.
Hey, Justin. Love your show. Every single time I ship something through FedEx with a label that I've purchased on eBay, FedEx charges my account a second time somewhere later down the road. Have you ever experienced this? What have you done to fix that. I put in the correct weight, usually even a pound or so over if it's a larger package. I put in the correct dimensions into eBay. Just curious on what your thought is on this.
Yeah, Danny, thanks. That I definitely have had that happen. It does seem to be a more recent problem with FedEx in particular. I'm not exactly sure why, to be honest. But what happens is you ship something via FedEx, you put the right dimensions, the right weights, and then a week or a month later, you get a notice saying that FedEx is charging you more because you underweighed or undermeasured. I'm not exactly sure why, especially if it's just not true. You can contest these charges. I would start with eBay. I would contact eBay and talk to them first. I've heard reports that the problem sometimes is with eBay and their calculation and how they send that off to FedEx. I've heard of people getting money back directly from eBay on that, but I've also heard that people have to contest it through FedEx. I've never had that happen to me in such a way that it's so much money that I think it's worth actually going out and getting a refund on it. So I've been pretty lucky, but I don't know why. And I think if it's continuously happening on FedEx for you, I would maybe think about not shipping FedEx. It's a good way to just, not support the company if they're continuously, making mistakes like this. You might want to think about UPS. Personally, I prefer FedEx over UPS. I have a UPS store that's closer to me, but the parking lot is not a good situation. It's like in a parking lot of a grocery store, and it's hard. I don't want to carry these giant packages very far. Whereas with FedEx, I can pull almost directly up to the door and drop off. So it's very personal why I ship FedEx, but I don't have that problem, or I don't have that problem regularly, I should say. I have experienced the problem in the past, but it's just not a regular problem. So yeah, reach out to eBay, reach out to FedEx, contest those charges. You will most likely get your money back on that, but it's a pain. And so consider not shipping through FedEx. If they're going to screw you around, just don't use them. Other Justin asks, had something new happen recently, was wondering how you handle it. Someone bought something and then started a return, stating they ordered it for parts and were returning the rest, and to give them a partial refund. Never seen that before, but it doesn't surprise me. There's some buyers out there doing the craziest things. And that's just that's really rude. You're buying an item so that you can pull parts out of it and send it back and get a partial refund. People, that's the thing. Selling on eBay, it's a service job, right? You're dealing with the public. You're going to run into people that are rude. You're going to run into people that are unethical, but you're also going to run into a lot of people who are completely fine and normal human beings. This person, that's not normal behavior. That's kind of trashy to be doing something like that, but there's really not much you can do about it, honestly. I don't know, actually, you may want to reach out to eBay on this one. You may be able to deny a return. I guess if you have returns turned on, you need to accept the return. I accept the return for any reason. And so I would accept this return. I would give them a partial refund. That's the thing too, is a lot of people get bent out of shape about transactions that don't go right. And you may lose some money out on this one, but you have to keep the big picture in perspective. Let's say you lose $25 or even $100 on this order because of this shady buyer. On a small scale, that stinks and nobody likes losing money. But on the larger scale, having one buyer out of 1,000, that does this, you're making way more money. The opportunity to make way more money is so far greater than the few dollars you might miss out on scammy buyers like this. And so I try not to let these situations get me down. I definitely try not to let them impact the trajectory of my total business. In my lifetime, I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars on eBay. If I let one or two buyers like this who pulled some scams or were doing weird behavior like that, if I let them impact my business, I would be losing out on far more than the money I would lose out on a single transaction that went wrong like this. And so my advice here is to just be like, wow, some buyers are crazy. Do what they ask, give them their partial refund. If you can part it out even more and get some more money out of it, great. But just know that most buyers are not going to do this, and it's a rare occasion. So I would just figure it out and move on, and don't let it impact your total business here. All right, Globe Gaming asks, my question is about the sell-through rate. How do you personally calculate it? I've seen sellers do it all sorts of ways. So yeah, sell-through rate. So this is definitely, you hear a bunch of people having different answers for this. And in fact, I've had different answers for this over time. And on this channel even, you can go back and find older videos of mine where I talk about sell-through rate in a very different way. And my thinking has evolved and changed here. And especially as I help educate other resellers out there when it comes to sell-through rate, I just think about it in a different way than I did before. The way I think about it now is it's less about a formula. It's less about doing math in your head, and it's more about a feeling. What you want to do when checking sell-through rate is you want to check the number of active listings an item has, which is your competition, and you want to check the number of sold listings that same item has, which is the demand, how many buyers out there are buying it or have bought it. And you want to compare those two numbers. And I don't need you to do math in your head. I hate doing math in my head. I hate doing math generally, but I also especially hate doing math in my head. So I'm not going to recommend that you do that. Instead, just get a feeling for it. If there's one actively listed and 100 sold, that's amazing. That means that over the last 90 days, there's been 100 people coming to eBay looking for it. That's over one per day. And there's only one active listing out there. That means that if you put another one up, you can expect that to sell within a couple of days, assuming it's priced well and you don't, mess up your listing. But if it's a reverse, if there's 100 listed and one sold, well, that means that there is one person that comes by every 3 months and they have 100 to choose from. The chances that they select yours is very minimal. It's, it will sell eventually, but it will probably take many, many months, if not years. And so that's what I mean when I say get a feeling for sell-through rate. You will find that most things you look up, it's very clear whether you should be purchasing it or not without having to do any math. And just know again that sold history goes back 90 days. So if you see 90 things have sold, that means one person a day on average comes by to buy it. If you see 900 sold, that means 10 people come by every day on average to buy it. And then see how much competition there is. How many other people are out there selling it? Is it going to be easy for me to stick out? So many things you pick up are going to be 3,000 actively listed and 75 sold. Not a great sell-through rate. I would probably pass on something like that unless the value was extremely high. So yeah, when it comes to sell-through rate, I don't think you need to do any math. You just need to get a feeling for it. Check active, check sold. Spend a few seconds thinking about it when making your decision. Don't worry about doing a bunch of complicated math in your head. All right, Toggly asks, my question is about those multiple listing services like Vendu. Have you ever had any experience on them, either good or bad? It would seem to me if the idea of selling on eBay is to get as many eyeballs on your merchandise as you can, and cross-listing apps allow you the ease of only creating one main listing, which they disseminate, wouldn't it make sense to cross-list on all platforms simultaneously? I think they also offer some kind of feature that automatically delists items when it sells on one platform so you don't have multiple sales. Are there any downsides to cross-listing stuff? So yeah, cross-listing, I don't do a whole lot of cross-listing these days. I have experimented a lot with it in the past, but to me, the value of cross-listing, the money that I made from it, the additional sales that I made from it did not outweigh the hassle of managing cross-listing across many marketplaces. So there's a lot of tools out there that do it. Personally, I never really trusted the tools that I've tried. They were either very difficult to use, or they were doing weird things to my inventory and I couldn't tell what they were doing and it felt dangerous, like things were going to be deleted. I'm sure those platforms have improved over time. But again, if I was making double the amount in sales or triple the amount in sales, I think I could stomach some of the challenges that come with cross-listing. But it just wasn't worth the squeeze for me. I was not, eBay is so much of a larger platform. And this may have a lot to do with what I sell in particular, which is everything. But, if you're selling nothing but clothes, cross-listing from eBay to Poshmark may make a ton of sense, right? But if you're selling in some other category, that it isn't very popular on other marketplaces, it may not make sense. And so again, take my advice with a grain of salt. You should experiment with cross-listing to see if it is worth it for you. It was never worth it for me. It was just not, it didn't generate enough income to deal with the hassle of doing it. And I think when I finally gave it up, it was when one of the cross-listing platforms said that they delisted my item when they really didn't, and it sold twice. I was like, okay, this is not worth it. I made an additional $80 this month by selling on other platforms. Now I got a ding on my account for having to cancel it. It was just not worth it. And so I moved on from it, but your mileage may vary. You may find that it is successful and you should do it. But personally, eBay is king, like it or not. That's where all the money is for the things that I sell. I have found more value on focusing on eBay specifically and growing my business there instead of, spreading it out to a bunch of smaller marketplaces. So that's my view on it, but give it a shot.
Hi, Justin. I have a question. When I'm selling, say, brand new suits, new with tags, should I show pictures of the measurements on those items? Thank you very much, and I love your video.
Thanks, Mike. So your question is, should I include pictures of the measurements when I'm selling clothing? You mentioned a suit. I'll just say, generically with clothing, I prefer to do both. List the measurements in the description or in the condition description or in the title somewhere or in the metadata somewhere, have the actual dimensions and measurements of the item you're selling, and then also in the picture as well. I think it's an accessibility thing. Not everyone is going to be able to see the measurements through the pictures, or not everyone's going to be able to read the description in that way. And so if you have both options, it's just opening yourself up to more buyers. And I have a very quick way of doing that. I use this tool. I think it's called the Reseller Ruler. I actually don't love it. It's not amazing, but it's okay. And it's like this tool that basically has two yardsticks connected together. So you can very quickly just sort of like spin it around and get both like the chest measurements and the whatever the measurement is called from the top of the neck down to the bottom for shirts, for example. And so it makes that pretty quick. And I use it pretty often. So I just end up taking a picture with that Reseller Ruler laid over it, and then also listed in the description as well. So you don't have to, but I think you're just going to open up yourself to more buyers if you are listing it in both places, and you're going to probably reduce the chances of someone not seeing the measurements or reading the measurements if you're offering it in two places, even for new clothing too. I would recommend doing it for new clothing because just, sizes are not consistent. They are different depending on the brand, depending on when it was manufactured. A large in 2024 is very different than a large in 1998, for example. So it's good to use those measurements. King of Stevomania asks, why is it when you accept an offer from a buyer, payment is not immediately made? I've accepted offers and sometimes have to wait 4 days before being able to cancel due to buyer not paying. Yeah, Stevomania, that's one of the downsides of both auctions and best offers is sometimes buyers will send a best offer and you're like, cool, I'll take that. And you accept the best offer and they just never pay. And then you have to like cancel it and get relisted and you have to wait a couple days. Super annoying. And it's one of the reasons why I don't turn best offers on my listings is just because of that hassle. eBay has been testing like immediate payment for best offers where in order for a buyer to make a best offer, they have to have their credit card information and agree to pay it. I don't understand their rollout strategy. I have not seen that in a long time. Like in the offers that I've received over the last month or two, none of them have been immediate payment, whereas like a few months ago, some of them would have been immediate payment. My guess is that buyers are not accustomed to this and they're complaining about it, because when I would get immediate payment best offers from people, I would say like 3 or 4 times over the course of a month, buyers would send me an angry email saying, I never agreed to pay for this. Why did you charge me? And I was like, what are you even talking about? You bought this thing. But then I realized like, oh no, they sent an offer and I accepted it and it immediately charged them. That was different from what the buyer was expecting because they weren't expecting to have to pay in that way. And so I don't know what's going on with eBay with this. I don't know if they're still trying to roll this out more widely or if they're going back to the drawing board to make it more clear to the buyer what's going on. But it's annoying. No way to prevent it except not allowing best offers. JC asks, I'm curious, if you scan an item and determine it sells, what is the minimum potential profit do you hope to see before making the purchase? Thanks, JC. I don't really think of it in that way. There's a lot of variables that go into just determining whether something is worth it to buy it to resell, and the amount of money that I'll make on it is only one of those factors. Now, obviously, it's a very important factor, and I'm not going to buy something to resell if I'm not going to make any money on it, or if the money I make on it is so low that it's not worth the effort. But that's just one factor. There's all sorts of other factors that go into that decision-making process. Another big one is something like time to sell. So if I'm looking at something that I think is going to take a week to sell, and I'll make $20 on it, like that's a pretty quick sell, a pretty quick way to turn around $20. But if it takes 3 months to sell, I might be less willing to do it. And so in the reverse too, like if something is going to bring in $500, but it's going to take 6 months to sell, I might be more willing to sit on that for that long. And so time to sell is another big factor in determining whether I want to buy something to resell or not. Other smaller factors are things like, is it in a category that's prone to returns or scams? So like a lot of like new high dollar electronics, I will pass on even if I'm going to make a lot of money on it because I don't want to deal with the crowd that comes with selling a thing like that. Another thing is like, a hassle to ship. And so if something is extremely delicate and is going to have the potential of breaking en route, or it's going to take me a long time. I have to find a specialty box. I don't know, all sorts of things like that. I will, the amount of money that I need to make will increase for me to make the decision, the more difficult it is to actually ship the item. So a lot of different factors go into it. It's not as easy as saying I need to make this much money. And so I think when you do this for enough time, you start to sort of develop your own rubric for that. So that's mine. Patty asks, I promote most things. My thinking is instead of lowering the price, use the money that you were going to mark off for promotions instead. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. This way, I'm tickling the algorithm as well as reaching more people ideally and ideally gaining customers. My question is, if I promote something, if it doesn't sell and I remove it from my store, am I paying a price on that even if it didn't sell? So the short answer is no. If you use eBay's standard promotions, you only get charged the promotion fee if the item sells to a buyer that clicked on the promotion to buy it. So, even if you have promotions turned on and you sell the item, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be charged the promotional fee. You only get charged if the buyer clicked on your listing from an ad. But there is another type of eBay promotions, which they just changed the name of. I can't remember what it's called now. But basically, it's like a pay-per-click model. So you list something and you promote it, and every time somebody clicks on it, you get charged some small amount depending on a number of variables that you set as a part of that campaign. And then you don't get charged anything if and when it sells. Personally, I don't recommend that style of promotions to most people or to most items. There are situations where that promotional method does make sense, but if you're buying stuff at thrift stores and flea markets and garage sales and selling across all categories, you definitely don't want to use it for 99% of the things that you're selling. And you want to use the standard promotions where you promoted it at like 2% or 3% or whatever. And then when it sells, if it sells to a buyer that has clicked on that promotion, then you get charged that additional 2 or 3%. So, but yeah, if you end it and take it out of your store, you're not going to be charged that promotion fee if it didn't sell. All right. K Comics asks, you've mentioned in past videos that you offer free returns on your listings. I currently don't, but I've heard doing so will increase the percentage of items you sell. Similar to how you've shown on Flipwise that your sales went up after you started doing promoted listings, do you have any data to prove this is true? I only list comics, and I'm mainly concerned that someone might just read the comic and return it. Thanks. So yeah, I've shown in the past like the impact that turning promoted listings on can have on your store. For me, it was, crazy. Like overnight, I started selling twice as much as I normally sold. It was very easy to see on a graph, like here's time before I turned promoted listings on, and here's the time after I turned promoted listings on, and be able to compare the two. I think with free returns, it will be much more of a subtle difference, not as high of a contrast between before and after. And also I've had free returns turned on for a long time. And so I don't think I have data that goes back to show like, here's the date that I turned free returns on to see the difference between the two. But even if I did, I think it would be a lot more subtle than it was with promoted listings. But when it comes to making the decision on whether you should offer free returns or not, just think of it from a buyer's perspective. Do buyers want to be able to return stuff? Yes. Do buyers think it's weird if they can't return something? Yes. Do buyers want to be able to return stuff without having to pay money? Yes. And so if a buyer is looking at two listings for the same exact product, one of them offers free returns and one of them doesn't, and they're priced otherwise the exact same, my guess is that most buyers are going to choose the one that ensures that they can return it if they want to at no cost to them. So I just think it's a value add, and even not looking at the data at all, it's just more attractive. And so more buyers are going to want it. It could be category specific though. I don't know the comic book category very well at all. And so, my guess is that people buying comic books are doing it to collect them, not to just like read them like a library. So I don't know, but you would want to like experiment with this yourself. But I do know that eBay provides some metrics here. Like if you just look at this page here from eBay, when they talk about turning on free returns, they say that like your sales will increase up to 25%. So if you have no returns right now and you turn on free 60-day returns, they say it's going to increase your sales by 25%, which is significant. 60-day returns, that's quite a bit. I have 30-day free returns. And so, if you don't offer returns at all right now and you turn on 30-day free returns, they're saying you can expect your sales to increase by 15%. So I don't know. I don't have that data myself. This is coming from eBay, but I'll leave you with that. Taco Casa King asks, how is it legal for eBay to skim off our shipping costs? Well, Taco, I don't know. Is eBay skimming off of our shipping costs? I'm not exactly sure what you mean. Maybe you mean that they calculate the final value fee that you get charged as a seller on the total sale price, which includes the shipping cost. Is that what you mean? There's nothing illegal about that. It's their platform. They can do it. The reason they do that, by the way, is because a long time ago, when they only charged the final value fee based on the sale price and not the shipping cost, unethical sellers would sell things for $1 with $99 in shipping, so that they would only be charged final value fees calculated off the $1. And so eBay, rightly so, was like, hey, don't do that. So instead, they just consider the total sale cost, including the cost to ship, to get your final value fee off of. They also include things like sales tax, which I know a lot of sellers get upset about having to pay final value fees on the sales tax as well. But keep in mind, collecting and remitting the sales tax, which eBay does for you, is a service, right? That's not free to provide that service. If you had to do it yourself, it would be a total pain. You would have to collect the sales tax and remit it to every single state. So you wouldn't want to do that, but it takes time and effort for them to collect that sales tax and remit it to the state. So the fact that they charge the final value fee, including the sales tax, I don't really care. Like, they got to pay for that somehow. So Darren asks, I listed a card for sale on eBay for $20. Someone bought it and I went to the post office to send the item, but it cost me $7 to ship. eBay charged me $25 for the item, but I never got the money from eBay and shipping costs, so I ended up eating the shipping. What did I do wrong? I don't know that I understand your situation exactly, but I'll just explain how this works. Like, when you sell something on eBay to someone, you sell it for $100 and you charge the buyer $15 in shipping. eBay then pays you $115. And then it's your job to go ship the item. And so eBay doesn't really care what it actually costs to ship. They just know that you charge the buyer $15 to ship and you sold it for $100. So they give you $115. They take out their fees, and then you got to ship it. And so if you buy a shipping label that costs $15, then that means the sale amount goes back down to $100 since you spent $15 on shipping. So I don't know. I'm not sure what you did wrong there. Definitely don't go to the post office to buy your labels, though. You'll pay about 40% more. Always buy them through eBay. They're much cheaper. Hopefully that helps. Jose asks, quick question. If I use Pirate Ship or another shipping app, can I avoid eBay fees on the shipping part? I've noticed that the box in a bag option is way cheaper on Pirate Ship, and saving even $1 on shipping fees really adds up if you're selling a lot. So no, that's not how it works. So when you sell something for $100 and you charge the buyer $15 in shipping, that means the buyer pays $115, and that's how much you get back from eBay for the sale minus their fees. And then you have to ship it. And so it doesn't matter if you use eBay to ship it or Pirate Ship or go to the post office or wherever, eBay's going to charge you the final value fee based on the amount that the buyer paid to ship, regardless of where you bought the label, if that makes sense. He said, also, do you have any other shipping tips to cut costs? In your August 5 video around 10/12, you shipped a Skims logo mesh cami bodysuit for just $2.25. That's super low. How did you do that? Yeah, for that one, that was just a combined shipping. So that buyer bought multiple items that I was able to combine into a single package and then split the cost of ship across each item. So that's why it looks like that was really, cheap to ship. It just went into a box with 2 or 3 other things that probably cost, $5 or $6 to ship. So that's what was going on there. All right, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, YouTube thinks you might like this other video of mine, so check it out.